The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
And when I started running, I suppose I didn't stop, and when I got the chance to go, I said I should go, and so I opened up.
We're only the small little fish out there, so we are, and we're trying hard to make it through. But it's hard to get the breaks when you're the smaller fish.
Because I love this county so much, you know, and it's just, I'm delighted that the lads did it for the people of Waterford today, because like I'm heartbroken.
Welcome along to the GAA Hour on a Wednesday. It's our last Wednesday before we split out the two shows next Thursday into the hurling show and the football show for the National League. So we're back on Wednesday. It's myself and Conan in studio. Connor's not here. He's rang in sick, Conan. Had astro last night, sprained his foot, woke up this morning, can't walk on it, gone to A&E. These things can escalate very quickly.
Jesus, can I record though? I mean, we would do anything to be here in the GAA Hour studio, you know, just to get our voices.
Yeah. You've never not shown up.
I've never missed a day.
You've never missed a day.
I get most committed award every year.
So we're nearly there, and Air Sport and TG4 have launched their schedules for the National League, and as we know, TG Cahir is all over the league, so they have 40 matches to be broadcast as part of their spring schedule, and that's very exciting. So they're across all sorts of games, club games. I think they have some of the third level games. They have loads of National League games, up to 3 games on a Sunday. I'm actually arguing here. Now, shout me down if you want. There's too much bloody games on.
No.
Come on, I mean, Jesus, what about family life? I've got 3 games to watch. 3 in it. So listen to this. So Ayr have got, I think it's 17 games. They have. I had that written down. 15 live games in the coming months. So they have up to 3 games on a Saturday night. So you have 6 games on Saturday night and Sunday. Where's my weekend gone? Like, I mean, what can we complain about here? 2
months ago, you had Declan McBennett in the studio, and you had him by the pin of the collar against the wall almost. Like, where the hell are our games? There are not enough games, and now you're telling me there's too many.
I think there's I think this is oversaturation. Can I say that? Look, I've been up since 3 a.m. this morning, so I'm just looking for something to complain about.
But you still made it in.
I did. But anyways, so the coverage on Air Sport, so TG Cahir didn't really say who it was. I presume it's the same kind of group. TG Cahir aren't really about their panel and everything. You know, they're not usually high profile pundits. They're pundits on the field at half time. They're grand. I usually can't understand what they're saying anyway. It's more about the games. You know, they bring us the games and we're all very appreciative of that. Air Sport make a bit more of a splash about theirs. You know, they had all their pundits there. That's Senan Connell, the man with 9 lives, ex-employee of ours. We love Senan on this show. Billy Joe Padden, Mark O'Shea, Michael Meehan is in there. Be interesting to see him. Did some work with him before on News Talk. Marty Clark and Aaron Kernan are on the football, and we have Tommy Walsh, much smaller hurling panel. Tommy Walsh, Owen Kelly and Seamus Hickey are the 3 on the hurling. So we look all very young, you know, modern kind of pundits. They have Moira Trassa, Nikialig and Anna Geary, Damien Lawler and Conor Morris on their presenting team. So they've got the gender balance exactly 2-on-2 there, so nobody can actually say anything about them. We all know the pressure that comes with getting that old gender balance thing right, so they're bang on that. So it's exciting to see what they're going to come with Ayr. I like Ayr's coverage usually. Dave McIntyre's not in there for whatever reason. Maybe he's too busy. He's a very busy man. He's not in there on commentary duty, but look, their coverage is usually very good during the summer, as is TG Cahir's.
Yeah, TG Cahir, it is interesting you say that, because they have like a bit of a gap in the market. It's like they don't need to make that splash because nobody else is covering Fitzgibbon or Sigerson, and nobody else is doing all the club games that they're doing. And when you think of club, you just associate it with TG Cahir, so it's almost like they're not under as much pressure. They provide all these star names. The Air panel looks class. Like Mark O'Shea in particular, every time we've had him on here, he's been really good.
Yeah, no. Well, they probably need a contrarian. There's a lot of agreement will probably happen on that panel, which is, you know, it's important as well to be entertained as well as educated. But now that we mentioned the club games and RTE, now this is last week's news. This is the frustrating thing about doing only one show a week. You miss all this kind of news, and now this is really old that RTE are, I don't know how Ayr agreed to this actually, because RTE are going to show 4 league games now. So they're going to be simulcast on Ayr and on RTE. So there's no one going to watch Ayr. Like, I mean, their whole selling point is to have these exclusively. Now I wonder, will that affect subscriptions, knowing that there's going to be 4 on RTE? I wonder, would diehard GA fans get an Ayr subscription, you know, for 4 months or 3 months while that National League is going on, enjoy it, and now I wonder if it's on if it's on RT2, I'd say RT would have to pay Ayr a lot of money to have got the rights to those ones. You know, I'm surprised that they were able to get in there. Also, they're getting they're broadcasting games from the AIB Club Championships. Now we don't know what that's going to entail, and that's fantastic news as well. And like, to be fair, I did say, did I not say, Declan Matt Bennett, wait. He's a GAA man, he's a Monaghan man, he will change things. Royal Nugent was a rugby man, and this wasn't anything against Royal Nugent, but we know RT can do better in 3 months. And Declan Matt Bennett, being a GAA man, has immediately improved it. I predicted this would happen.
And what RT do, like, whether you like their coverage or not, RT are the show. Like, they're the national broadcaster. They're like, they bring the X factor. And for me, when I see that they're doing the league, even though it's only 4 weeks, but that's half of the league season, when I see they're doing it, it just gives the league so much more credence straight away. Like, no matter what, like, TG Cahir and Ayr do a great job, but it's RT you're doing it now. And I think the players take it seriously anyway, but I think once RT start covering every round of the league, everybody will start like taking far more seriously than what it is, because we both know how amazing it is. Like, it is probably the best competition, but we can actually just enjoy it before the championship and enjoy it as like brilliant, because we're hyping it up properly because RT are involved. Yeah, no, exactly. Now, what I think, I've obviously interviewed Declan McBennett and was asking him about this, and I'm have strong opinions on the national broadcaster only showing GAA for 3 months. They've rectified that somewhat. This runs from 2019 to 2022. I can't wait for the next agreement in 2022. This is a weird one, how they were able to change this mid-contract. You know, so like, I mean, now we have John Horan looking for the tier 2. It's not John Horan's. We've all been campaigning for a tier 2. A lot of people for a long I have been for a long time. So if they're able to change the RTE thing mid-contract, so why can't they give Virgin Media the tier 2 All-Ireland? So what they sold back in 2017 for the 5 years didn't have a tier 2. Now it has a tier 2. Sky and RTE, the broadcast partners for TV for the championship, will not want tier 2. They're going to fight over the big glamour games in tier 1. So who's going to cover tier 2? Virgin Media. And let's have those games on a Saturday night game showing tier 2, then the Sunday game on the Sunday showing tier 1. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Like, I mean, this is the way they should be looking. And Joe McDonagh Cup, that's the tier 2 hurling All-Ireland. Let's get that in the mix on Virgin as well. Now, this obviously Virgin have to want it, but Virgin came in strongly looking for GAA the last time, and they got burned by Sky. So, like, I mean, I'd imagine, I wouldn't see any reason. Let Ayr Sport in and show the tier 2 All-Ireland. You know, this should be, if they're trying to sell this tier 2 All-Ireland, it has to be on television. Yeah, well, I agree with that. I would ask you, do you think that Virgin or Ayr, like, do you think they will go for those games, or like, would they hold out and just get a second-rate first division game? Well, the way I look at it, right, is when Ayr Sport started showing the National League, and they hyped up this National League, like, they've made that. I think their Saturday night games and the glamour and it being on television, I think this whole thing has made the league a little bit more important. Yeah. That we're seeing more games. I think the tier 2 All-Ireland on TV with a Saturday night game, All-Stars at the end of the year, the All-Ireland in Croke Park, do you know, the day before or the day of this Senior All-Ireland, this tier 2 becomes a huge competition then, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, like, I agree. I suppose I just want the TV companies to buy into it. Well, like, this is, like, at the end of the day, at the moment, Virgin have nothing. So is a tier 2 better than nothing, or do they wait till 2022 and start bidding for the tier 1 again? Do you know, or do they show how brilliant they are on tier 2 and then maybe bid in 2022? Anyways, this is pure speculation. I'm not working in the sales team or the programming team in Virgin. You saw this footage from the Derry Tyrone game in the McKenna Cup. Now, this was shocking. So Derry's head of performance analysis, Ben McGuckian, do you know him? Yeah, good fella. Okay, he shared this footage. It was edited footage, but it looks to be genuine. I actually had to look at it a few times to see, is there trickery going on here, or is this actually for real? It looks to be genuine. I couldn't believe it. I said, this cannot be real. So Kieran Brannigan is the referee here. Now, Ben McGuckian says on Twitter, he says, this 3 hand pass rule has to go. The inconsistency of reffing is shocking. If top officials, inverted commas, can't keep up, how will club level referees cope? Now, I've seen this, and I would urge anyone to go on and look at this clip. So it shows 2 occasions where Brannigan gets the hand pass wrong, completely arseways for Derry. So a ball is kicked down by the foot, it's hand passed once, and on the second hand pass, Brannigan is blowing up a free.
So he hasn't seen the kick pass, or he hasn't counted the kick pass that they're back down to 0. Now, I don't think this is the rules' fault. This is just atrocious refereeing if you see it. And not only that, it happens again for Derry. So another kick pass, a hand pass after a kick pass.
The first hand pass.
Yeah. And he blows that up. Like, that's deplorable refereeing. You cannot, in fairness to Ben, he can't use that as a problem with this is brain dead refereeing for Brannigan.
Like I do agree with that. Like, I do, like, this is just, if you give a red card, it wasn't a red card. We'd be slagging Brannigan.
It's
like,
not the red card's fault, it's the referee's fault. Now, and then on the Tyrone side, he showed 2 more examples of Tyrone blatantly hand passing 4 times in a row and not getting pulled for it.
Yeah.
So, like, not only is he counting it wrong on the Derry side one way, it's not like he has a consistent problem with this.
Yeah.
He's got two opposite problems.
And both times after the 4th hand pass for Tyrone, it ended up straight away giving them a free, which they scored both times.
Yeah, which Ben made sure to include in the video.
We only lost by 3 points, Willie, and you factor in those 4 decisions, we might have won.
So anyone listening to this that hasn't seen that video, search Ben McGuckin on Twitter, and I'm sure you'll see the video that he put up there. Interestingly, Kieran Brannigan is the referee that Diarmuid Connolly pushed when he was a linesman that day, who really should have seen Connolly being manhandled or pushed off the ball. That's what Connolly was getting a bit annoyed for.
Yeah.
And he was also the referee to Kevin McStay, was refereeing the game that Kevin McStay threw the ball at him or his linesman. So he missed an issue on the field. McStay gave out to the linesman saying, you need to tell him this. How did he not see this?
Yeah.
And then McStay ends up throwing the ball at one of them and hitting one of them on the head. So, like, I mean, Brannigan hasn't... the jury's out in this Kieran Brannigan referee, basically.
The one thing I would qualify it with is that he is still an inter-county referee. So, like, the more, and I remember saying before, like, you don't want to give referees too much power, and something like this gives him another excuse to make a mistake. When he's trying to count the passes. And I spoke to a referee actually yesterday. Great piece on the way, Willie. You're not going to like it, but he said, like, the problem with the hand pass rules that you're looking for the hand passes, you're counting it. Meanwhile, the full back could be beating the shit out of the full forward.
Well, I think that's an umpire's decision, because we'll talk about 2 referees now in a little while. This idea of the 2 referees, umpires need and linesmen need to help the referee. They're extra eyes. Like, I mean, this is just they're all mic'd up. The full back is pulling and dragging here. This is do you get me? Like, I mean,
so it's good at club level, though, I suppose, which is always in.
Well, that's true. There'd be chancers on either.
I'd be behind the net saying, didn't see anything.
But anyway, David Hassan was at this coaching conference, and he brought up a slide. This Malik Leclerkin had a piece here trying arguing to take it easy on the rules, and I think that he had a great point, and I kind of made the point last week that they do deserve a bit more respect, and managers should respect these new rules and, go into this new experiment with the best intentions and see how they work properly, instead of saying we're not going to bother with this. But Hassan brought up a slide showing 6 other sports that changed their rules within the past 6 months. Soccer, golf, rugby, cricket, Aussie rules and tennis. With the exception of AFL, you're talking about sports with a global profile. Hassan made the point that very few of those sports had made any real effort to enter into conversations with their players, managers, coaches on the rule changes. In most cases, they made the decision and they brought in the rules, and everybody else just got used to them. Sometimes, like I made this point, managers and players are kicking up a whole racket here, and they're feathering their own nest. They're looking after themselves. Why can't a rules committee like that, independent, look at the game in its totality? You can disagree or not, and then these rules are brought in, and stop. I don't care, Declan Butter, whether you're trying it or not. You're going to have to, because these rules are coming in. We need to see, will these work? And what you say to us is not necessary. We'll take any feedback you have, but these rules will go ahead.
Yeah.
Now they're up for debate, and I think it's the 19th. What day are we now? 16th. So
Saturday.
Saturday they're going to. It's at Central Council, and I think the GPA are meeting John Horan around that time as well.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, it just with the soccer, for example, there, like, the rules that he's talking about, like VAR and stuff like that. Like, where it's not really going to change much. It's just
Conan,
it helps them.
If that was in the GAA, there'd be war about this as well. This VAR is a poison chalice half the time too. Like, I mean, all the analysis of that is because there's so much diving in soccer and penalties are grey areas, and even with slow-mo replays, pundits can't agree on this.
Yeah.
Sure, that's not really helping anything either, and there'd be war. Ulster would say no to VAR.
We'd say no to everything. We'd say no to Brexit now.
That's it. So, like, I mean, I don't know. And, like, another thing is Martin Breheny. So I think might be the first time I've mentioned his name in a positive manner on this show, but he had a piece today, and, like, they're all talking about goals. You hear them all saying you won't score goals under these rules, you won't get goals. And he has stats. He says 40 of last year's 68 championship games produced no more than 2 goals, while 77 of 110 Alliance League games did the same. Of the 29 Division 1 games, 23 had 2 or fewer goals, 9 had 1 goal, and 8 had no goals. I'm not sure what game people have been seeing in the last few years, but you ain't scoring goals with 2 sweepers and zonal. Like Dublin are actually beating the likes of Laois by and Longford by is 125.
Yeah.
They beat Galway by 126. Dublin aren't even trying to score goals because there's too many men back. They're just working laboured long hand pass sequences points.
But that's like, and I would just criticise those teams for letting them kick over 27 points and not pushing out on them. Do you know, and Dublin end up hammering them anyway.
But the point of the goals, I don't think this hand pass isn't going to ruin goals. In 2011, we do the stats. It's not like we had a goal drought back then, and that's all 9 out of 10 hand pass sequences ended after 3 hand passes back then. So I mean,
but 10% of them didn't.
But it's real scaremongering stuff that's going on with the managers. Like, I mean, it's almost like they're ringing each other and actually coming out like in unison with this anti kind of new rules.
Yeah, I just think this should be, when you're like bringing a rule, like honestly, I know you probably don't believe me, like I am all for listening to new rules. I just like some of the problems that we're seeing now, I had sort of predicted them, Willie, but like I think like when you are producing a new rule, it probably should be a bit more watertight. Like you don't want to be seeing problems before it gets brought in. I know you have to see it, but some of the problems that we are seeing now, even the referee, were things that people said this will probably happen if we bring this in. Yeah.
Look, we all knew like, I mean, I thought up with proposals before this whole thing started, and the limit on the hand pass wasn't one of them. It's not something I would have done, but I want to see it. I want to see it evolve and see it work. But anyways, we'll move off that because we've gone to town on the new rules until we start seeing some league games, and we might get back into it. The hurlers have been very quiet lately, and I think maybe it's a fault of ours. There's just never as much talking points in the hurling world as there is in Gaelic football for whatever reason. Everything goes kind of running smoothly. They never really complain about how the weaker counties are being treated. They never, there's just one big happy group of people that just
like their sport.
Just get on with it. But Brian Cody has been given out. So he's described the fixture schedule whereby the Fitzgibbon Cup coincides with the start of the National League as madness. Brian Cody's very few will disagree with you on this one. So in the space of a fortnight, starting next Sunday, 3 rounds of Fitzgibbon Cup matches will be crammed into the first 2 rounds of the National Hurling League. Now, we knew this was going to happen anyways, but like, I mean, it's unbelievable that after last year, the Ciara Malloy thing, all that stuff, that nothing's changed. It's the very same schedule of games in the National League, the same shoehorned into February and March. You've got 8 games in 10 weeks, so you've got tiny little bit of room to manoeuvre. The final is on March the 30th, so if there's any sort of a mess up, you're into the April months. They might end up having to cancel league games again. They've just left it the same.
Yeah.
They've left the schedule exactly the same as the year before after all that shit. And we're guaranteed really bad rain. Really bad rain in February.
There's frost coming now apparently as well. Which will happen.
Hard ground. All that stuff's going to happen. And the very same thing happens again. I can't comprehend that. And I can't comprehend the crossover of inter-county players playing Fitzgibbon, Sigerson and inter-county matches. And Brian Cody can't understand it. He says we have 12 players involved in Fitzgibbon. I remember almost exact quotes from a manager similar last year. I think it could have been the Clare manager. He says we've 12 players involved in Fitzgibbon. It's not just about us but all the counties. And then to talk about burnout. But that's really, really, really madness from a fixture point of view. He said, and I haven't heard one person mention a single thing about it. Brian, start listening to this podcast. But how there's not some kind of communication, whatever way you want to put it, between the people making the fixtures, it's madness. But it's the situation we're in. Like, you can't speak any more plainly than that. Like, the greatest hurling manager the game's ever seen. And he's saying 12 of our players are in double competitions in February, in terrible weather. And the really harsh part for these poor 12 fellas, it's all right for an established player too. What about the poor chap trying to get on the squad or trying to get on the panel? So this fella's going to try and play both. Yeah. He's going to train with Kilkenny right up to the Fitzgibbon match, and he's going to really mess his body up. Yeah,
you said Ciara Malloy. We had him on the show recently, and he did. He sounded a bit like not frustrated, but disappointed that he didn't make the Galway team last year. He knows he's young, but then it was only Ian Burke from Corofin that made it because they were out until March. He was obviously playing Sigerson as well. Now he's in the same situation. Corofin are still going. He's playing Sigerson. And I saw he was playing against Mayo the other day for Galway. So he's obviously in training with Galway. even though he still has Sigerson coming up and he still has Corofin to do, which I haven't really seen before. Like, so he's playing these games in the FBD because he wants to try and impress Galway. And now, so this guy who's trying to get into the team, like you say, is now juggling 3 balls at once.
Yeah, it's not easy to juggle 3 balls at once, I'd say. But the Brian Cody one is interesting. Tony Kelly, or Matty Kenny, is onto the same topic. He says 3 games in 6 days. He's talking about crossover is going to be, or this is in January. He says, so the planners, this scheduling that the GAA is talking about, it's gone horribly wrong again. Right, so Dublin just played 3 games in 6 days, and that's in January. So, like, I mean, Tony Kelly is on about the same thing now. He's left college. He says, I'm done. So there's a bit of downtime to train hard with the county while the Fitzgibbon is on. He says, but now we have lads facing into the Fitzgibbon Cup next Sunday, again in midweek, and then a league game at the weekend. It's pretty daunting for them, especially if you're new into a county panel. That's the point I was making. He said it's very hard to establish yourself on a county panel if you're going to be with the college twice and rejoining the league panel that weekend. It's just not fair. It's not fair. Try and just put yourself, fixtures planners who probably never kicked an inter-county ball in their lives. They can't even picture putting themselves in these players' shoes.
Yeah.
They can't even picture it, I'm sure.
In hindsight, I feel really bad for like making fun of Brian Howard last year. Remember, he didn't play for his Sigerson game, and
he took a stand, but he probably lost his scholarship for that. We don't know.
He ended up playing the week after in a quarter-final or semi-final.
I think he missed maybe 2 games and then played the last game, or something like that.
But like, you know, and I remember saying something like, Jeremy Connolly will just come back and take his place anyway. Then he would have been Young Player of the Year if it wasn't for a freak David Clifford. But he had to make that decision.
Conan, we don't always get it right in this show. Yeah, we definitely don't. So Wexford beat Kilkenny, the last bit of hurling here for a minute. It was a fairly fiery game, and Davy Fitzgerald, how can you not love Davy Fitzgerald? And he obviously does not watch Connor sketches at all. I think he said that on Unfiltered, Dion's podcast. So he doesn't watch it, and I believe him when he says he doesn't watch it, because Connor Sketch's impression of Davy is, well, I'm not saying nothing, so I'm not, or whatever, and this is what he keeps saying. So here's Davy after the Kilkenny Wexford game. He says, all I'll say is it'll be an interesting year. Actually, I mightn't say too much, but it will be interesting as the year goes on. That's all I'll say. It doesn't get any more Davy than
That's
that.
Class.
He's absolutely brilliant. Anyways, moving on. This is something that caught my eye here, and I thought it was interesting. Declan Bonner, I'm starting to wonder about Declan Bonner. Declan Bonner is a player. See, I've had a huge graw for the Declan Bonners, the Paul Currans, all these fellas from the early 90s, where I was 14, 15 watching these games on the telly thinking, Jesus, these lads are supermen. They're unbelievable players. And I've met him a good few times and I like him. And then a few things that keeps happening. And here he is now talking about 3 players. So it's Stephen McBrearty, it's Mark McHugh, and it's Derek O'Connor. Right, so they're not on the panel. Now, we don't know why they're not on the panel. Well, for now, anyways. So Donegal boss was asked after the match where the 3 lads are. So they're not on the panel, and it's a very fair question. Declan, any news on the 3 lads? I'm not making any comment on those, he says. Right. So then a little bit later, he's pressed on this, on why they were asked, were they unavailable, were they injured, or were they dropped? Bonner replied, did you not hear me the first time? I'm only making comments on players that we have here training and working with us. Now, would you read into that there's something untoward here, is a disciplinary issue, Bonner's pissed off with these lads, he doesn't want to talk about them? Like, that's the kind of impression I get there. It's combative. It's like, Jesus, forget about those 3. I found out about those 3 lads. They have not committed a panel for different reasons. Work commitments is one of them, and the other, which they're perfectly entitled to do. And why would be wrong for Declan Bonner to say, yeah, well, the 3 lads couldn't commit this year. We hear this all the time. We wish them the best of luck, and sure, you know, the door will remain open next year if they decide to come back. There's more to life than football at the end of the day. Mark has given great service to Donegal, and now, you know, he might have work commitments, whatever. Why can't he say that? It's almost like Declan Bonner is trying to be Jim Gavin with the media, and he just doesn't seem to have the intelligence to be able to play that kind of "I'm giving you nothing" game. Because this is not an example where you give nothing. It's a very simple answer.
Actually, you say Jim Gavin. I was thinking the best way for Declan Bonner to deal with that would have just been like a Jim Gavin answer. Just they're just taking a bit of time out and don't say anything. Like, just lie if you have to. Like, even.
But this isn't a scandal. Like, lads are allowed to go for different reasons. Say, well, they couldn't commit this year. We hear it all the time.
Yeah, but even if there was a scandal, like Jim Gavin just would just lie anyway. Like, Jim McConnelly, what the hell's happened with your best players? Like, he's taking a bit of time out to think about things, and doesn't tell us anything, and then things go on, and nobody really sort of presses any further because they're not getting anything.
I'm not making any comment about those players. Did you not hear me the first time?
That thing. I'm only making comments on players who are here training. Maybe I didn't mean it this way.
Show up training.
Exactly. It probably didn't mean it that way, but I'm looking at that thinking, but. Also, not to sort of disrespect the lads, but Stephen McBurty, he was showing a bit in the league, but wasn't really making the starting team then when it came down to it.
And he went away to America last summer. So, my information is that the three lads have dropped off themselves.
Yeah.
So Declan Bonner could be annoyed that they've dropped off, but you can't start kind of almost insinuating that these lads have done something wrong, because they haven't. It's a voluntary game. It's an amateur game. Anyways,
I just think he could have had bigger blows as well. Like Dara O'Connor, I think from the three of them looks like it's a bit of a blow because he's always the real razor sharp sub that comes on for him. But
he made more of an impression 2 years ago than he did. Mark McHugh, this free hand pass comes in. Who's the best sweeper in Ireland? Who was the best sweeper in Ireland? Here's a really good one now. So, Laois, this is okay. These are the kind of things that you just scratch your head and you go, God, nowhere else other than the GAA would do this. So remember we were complaining that Laois are going to be punished because they went on a training camp 2 weeks before last year's championship in April for clubs. And John Sugru wrote a big letter, kind of being a little bit sarcastic about Dublin going to France, and we should have maybe said that we were in Kerry on a historical trip and we would have got away with it. So John was dead right. So during April, Laois played 4 rounds of the National League that all their players were available for. But 2 weeks before the championship, before the Wexford game, they went on a training weekend. I don't see anything wrong with that. But the GAA are like, you can't go on a training weekend during this month. So Laois have to be punished. So their punishment is that they lose a game in the National League this year. Where's the league being played? Where's the league game being played that they're being punished for? Croke Park.
We'll just pick it random. Croke Park.
It's like a reward. It's like, well done for doing that. Now you get a game in headquarters where everybody loves to play. So now Laois's National League Division 3 clash against Louth, a well winnable game for Laois, will be in Croke Park on February the 3rd for the punishment. So they were due to play Louth in Moore Park, but instead they're going to Croke Park. So I think it's part of a triple header that day. So I don't think anyone in Laois would be too disappointed with this punishment. It's a classic, isn't it?
And it works out that the GAA get a better fixture as well with three games at once now at Croke Park.
3 games. I think there's a Dublin double header that same day. Dublin plays someone in the men and women's football, and Laois is the curtain raiser to the two of them.
That's classic. Get an extra game at Croke Park, more experience. At least live game, which wouldn't have been the highest bills now, at the best stadium. I'd go on more training weekends and get this punishment.
Fantastic stuff. So Muggsy has retired. Now I'm on the fence as whether you're allowed to actually retire when you're a club player. I had this out with Mark O'Shea recently on Twitter that he retired from the Gaeltacht in Irish on Twitter, and he'd already retired from Kerry. You can only retire once, right? This double retirement, looking for the nice red notifications of likes on Twitter and Instagram and all this. I'm not a fan of retirements anyways, full stop. But what are you retiring from? A pastime for? Give me a break. I don't even like I don't like retirements, big deals made around retirements. I'm not into that. So retiring from club about 5 years after you've retired from intercounty, I think you're really pushing the boat out there. Only I like Muggsy a lot, so I'm going to be very positive about this retirement because he was such a legend, and he gives us an excuse to play this audio.
Seeking out Owen Mulligan. Mulligan out in front. Christie out of the game. Mulligan, they've got to work a score from this. Owen Mulligan, options to his left. Still Mulligan! Mulligan! What a goal! That is one of the great goals we've seen at Croke Park. Magic Mulligan. They're level.
Incredible goal by Mulligan that time. He saw 2 of the most wonderful dummies, made out as if he was going to punch past twice, didn't foul the ball, just watch it, took it past John O'Shaughnessy, went again, Paul Casey bought the dummy, but rocketed to the back of the net. What a goal!
I know we talked to Muggsy about this on the show up in Cookstown if you want to have a listen to it, but I cannot think of a better goal in the history of me watching Gaelic football. Importance, big stage, individual brilliance. It's the GAA equivalent of Diego Maradona in Mexico '86. That's what it is. It's outstandingly brilliant individual goal. I can't think of a better one.
skill.
Don't give me a Paddy Bradley goal.
No, well, there is a great Paddy Bradley goal at Croke Park, which is actually my highest Derry memory. 2004 against Westmeath, they beat Laois in the Leinster final. Paddy Bradley coming in off the right, outside of the left boot to the far top corner. Now, it wasn't better than Owen Mulligan's, I can admit it, just because of the importance of Mulligan's as well. But yeah, like skill, audacity, nerve, like they think goal. Nobody else thinks goal when you win the ball in the 45.
No, his back was to goal, and Paul Griffin, who's a very sticky defender, was right up behind him. So there's no goal on there, and Muggsy's not playing well.
Yeah,
he's not playing well, and he hasn't been on the team all year.
It was a great pass. Was Stephen O'Neill played the pass, was it? Like,
Stephen O'Neill played the nice little diagonal ball infield.
Brian McGuigan makes a support run. Like, it was unbelievable. And then, actually, I think it is better. I don't know if you can count it, but because he backed it up the next week with another goal and that celebration.
And he backed it up in the semi-final and the final.
Yeah, the goal is now an event.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that 10 seconds.
It was a pivotal moment in turning Tyrone's season around, turning Mulligan's season around into an All-Ireland winning season. It's incredible. Everything that went on with that goal, not just the brilliance of it, what it meant, what it did. You know? Like, I mean, they were dead and buried at half-time in that game, 5 points down, until Muggsy, a player who wasn't playing well, wasn't having a good year, turns it all on its head, get the draw, beat Dublin in the replay, beat Wexford well, and then beat Kerry against all the odds in the final. And in that final, Muggsy catches a ball on the edge of the square, lays it off to Canavan after a diagonal ball from Davy Hart for arguably completely different type of goal, but another one of the great Croke Park goals.
One of the most perfect catches as well. Like he's actually just in the air and he's hanging for 2 seconds and bang, catches the ball at the very highest point with just 2 clean hands, and you can see Canavan's face coming on, like, give it to me now. But I hate talking about Tyrone like this, to be honest, but to be honest, like, this is actually
that was a magic Tyrone team.
This is a reason I think it's okay for somebody like Mulligan to announce a retirement then, even with his club, because it's just been so good. I think when you get to a level, it's like you're allowed to retire twice and we can celebrate your career.
Yes, I know. Look, I'll agree. I will definitely give Muggsy a pass on this. And I like the picture he did as well, where the boots were hanging up.
It was brilliant.
Nice Puma boots there on the edge of the thing. I hadn't seen that before. So
blackened out and everything.
Blackened out, Pumas,
just 11 lovely words.
I wonder would he send me down those boots? They're lovely.
Yeah, well, you're going to still play for the Masters?
Well, I'll be playing. Oh yeah, Masters. Yeah, we might get on to that in a minute.
You could be wearing Muggsy's boots in the Masters.
Yeah, jeez, wouldn't that be great? So Declan Meehan, I was thinking of another goal. Declan Meehan is another one that springs to my mind. It was in the All-Ireland final against Kerry, and he's wing back, and Paul Clancy plays maybe one of the best passes I've ever seen over his shoulder right into Meehan's Pat, who's continued his run from right half back, and he buried it into the far left corner off the outside of his boot. So that was Darren O'Sullivan scored an unbelievable back flick. Kevin McManaman scored, let's be honest, what that goal meant to Dublin football. They've never looked back since. That was a huge moment. Now, none of them for me come anywhere close to Muggsy's goal. It was just a piece of absolute genius. I think Kevin Cassidy summed up, when fellas retire on Twitter, and I used to always reply to them and great career, well done, and I don't do that anymore now because I'm now against retirement.
You're above that now.
But it's not that I'm above it, I've just grown older and more cynical. I'm like, you'd be alright, I'm not. But anyways, so Kevin Cassidy replied back to Muggsy and he says, all the best, my man, you won everything in the game and you did it with a smile on your face. Enjoy your downtime now. And that's one thing you definitely remember about Muggsy did everything with a smile. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed Croke Park. He never looked like it was a chore. He looked like, this is a tough game, but I've never enjoyed myself more than what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You see a lot of players and it's like they score a goal and they're back out military. Muggsy enjoyed playing. I don't see many players like that now.
But there's some pictures of him as well, where people, the defenders obviously are sledging him. There's one with Tom O'Sullivan just grabbing his beard and stuff, taking the piss out of him, and Mulligan's genuinely laughing, and he seemed to enjoy all that, and not in a sort of he'll relish it sort of way. I think he just really appreciated the humour in it, and sort of thought it was funny.
I know he said live the dream in his post, but I actually probably think on the field he's thinking I really am living the dream.
Yeah.
Do you know? That's it. He just played like he was just living the dream.
I did an event in Derry last year, and Joe Brawley and Muggsy were on the panel, and Brawley, in fairness to him, said something nice about Muggsy, and he said, I don't know what it is, but just having him in the same room as you makes you feel better about yourself. And I couldn't point it out either, and I was like, he's actually really right. He just has this presence that makes you feel good.
Yeah, no, and that's fair enough. So congratulations on a great career, Muggsy. Another one here, I'm not sure if this will interest you very much, it interests me a little bit, is that there's a new championship structure in Louth. right? So I thought this was very interesting in the context of whether other counties should adopt it. And to me, it's basically the Kerry model.
Yeah, it is.
So amalgamated junior and intermediate teams will lock horns with senior clubs in a new look Loud all-county football championship. So basically a motion was put forward and it was narrowly agreed by the delegates. So it's going to start in 2019. So it's going to have, basically, it's like the Kerry Championship. So you're still going to have your senior football championship with senior teams, but that will have less importance now. It's just like that will continue on like it always did. But the real big championship will be all the senior teams, along with amalgamations of north, south, east, west, or whatever geographically of all the junior and intermediate clubs. Now, I'm trying to think of the pros and cons of doing that. I think there's 12 senior teams at the moment. So obviously then it'll be bumped up. So I presume intermediate and junior will go ahead as normal. All that. So extra fixtures. So Louth are not making this easy on themselves. So logistically, this is not going to be easy. Fixture-wise, this is not going to be easy. But it's fantastic for players around the county. It's fantastic for the county manager to go to the senior games and see every player. Not just how these intermediate and junior players can perform at that level, but how, you know, the best lads can perform actually against senior clubs. So like, I mean, it gives really big senior games to all players across the county that are good enough. And like, I mean, you look at like a brilliant player at a junior club, and he'll never get the feeling of being in a senior county championship, and that's just his bad luck that he's from a little village. Now he has that chance. I think it's great. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for Louth to run off their championship. That's the only downside of it. Kerry obviously do it.
Well, that's it. Like when I looked at it, I thought, oh, this is really good, because I know when I was in Derry, we used to talk about this. Wouldn't it be great if we had this? And we always talked about these amazing junior and intermediate players that are overlooked because they're not playing senior. And this is the perfect chance, like, you know, if you amalgamated teams and let them play senior and let them show how good they are, then the county obviously develops from that as well. But then I went on to some Louth forum last night, and there was a lot of giving out about it, and maybe this is just general GAAs give out.
The forums usually give out about stuff, but
they don't have the structures in place for it. They were complaining about the amount of fixtures, and I just thought of the Kerry model. Like, it is exactly the same as the Kerry model. If you win the all-county championship, then you go through, unless an amalgamated team wins it.
You can't represent Louth in the...
exactly. But if you're in the final and you're a club, then you go straight through. But if it's two amalgamated teams in the final, then the winner of the senior football championship goes through. Like the original championship. But Kerry, like, have an unbelievable amount of games, and they seem really happy with it. It's funny, because we always complain about, like, you know, wanting more games to training ratio, but then actually when we get more games, we complain about that as well. And I do understand, like, sometimes I think it's a pain in the arse playing so many games. I want a bit of a break, but this is a chance now to just have more games and less training, and people don't seem to want it. And like in Kerry, Crooks are playing a bloody East Kerry Championship over Christmas. Like, I didn't know there was an East Kerry Championship, and this is on top of the all-county and the senior football championship. So do you want more games or not?
I think they want more games. And look, at the end of the day, Louth will be knocked out of the championship in June, most likely early July. So they've plenty of time if they actually get their act together and actually start running this off. Especially they could get the senior championship run off pretty quickly, and then maybe play that amalgamated championship. So like, they should get straight into it. Here's a quote that will tell you how far Cork have fallen. Cork football. So here's Colm Collins after Clare beat Cork in the McGrath Cup final 1-9 to 9 points. Terrible. So this is now, you have to remember, this is the Clare manager, right? This is the Clare manager after beating Cork, talking about his own team, right? Terrible display, so it was. So many errors, so many mistakes. We've a lot to work on. I was very disappointed with our display, to be honest about it.
Beating Cork with that amount.
Beating Cork by 3 points in a McGrath Cup final, and the Clare football manager is livid with his team's performance. Like, I mean, it doesn't get any worse, really, for Cork football than that. And that's no disrespect to Clare, but traditionally, like, I mean, this is very, very embarrassing for Cork. Not to lose the Clare team now, because Clare are arguably better. It's just for the Clare manager to actually would not think there's any big deal in saying that was absolutely brutal from us. That just and Colm Collins is saying nothing wrong by saying that. It's more a reflection on where Cork are right now.
Have you ever been in the changing room where you're getting a bollocking because you only beat a bad team by 3 points, and you wonder how are they feeling? walking out hearing this, like, you know, you're all staying behind for an inquiry because you beat them, but you didn't beat them well enough. Like.
Yeah, well, look, that's harsh. That's just the way of the world, though. That's the way of the world. Like, I mean, you can't complain about things like that. But anyways, the point I'm going to make about this is, did you see this news last week that Graham Canty, Conor Coonahan and Brian Cuthbert have helped develop a long-term plan for Cork GAA? Did you see this last week?
Yeah.
So this is what they've come up with. So now these are 3 Cork, well, Canty's a legend anyway, Coonahan is too. Cuthbert, not sure he's in the legendary category, but a very good manager. Good manager for his 3 years.
Recent
experience in the game. So this is what they came up with. The main points that I took this out of the Irish Times. So high quality coaches with a strong focus on developing the fundamental skills of the game will be available in all clubs, along with a support network for those club coaches led by the county games development staff by the end of 2024. There's one. Another one, a county championship structure which supports this work will be in place within 3 years. A clear overarching vision plan for football in Cork which is communicated to and understood by all involved in the game. A well-resourced administration fully supportive of this plan and driving its success. Right, when I read this, I was like, why the hell did we need Graham Canty, Conor Coonahan and Brian Cuthbert to say this? Like, is this not just paint a picture of how utterly incompetent that county boards are? That this is what 3 players can come up with. More coaches, good coaches, right?
Yeah.
How dumb do you need to be to have 3 ex-players to tell you
even think
that,
of that?
and a structure to support this? And like, I mean, it's just beyond belief that when you see that, so this is not going on in Cork, in such a brilliant county and so much potential. Every time I read something like this, it's just like, why do I have to keep repeating myself? Why do we have amateurs who have no idea what they're doing running county boards, which are now need academies? They're a Premier League soccer club, a small version of that. Yeah. And we've got amateurs with no experience in that area running them. And they need ex-players to come in and say, we need high-quality coaches. Well, so I don't know where they're going to get the money for these high-quality coaches, because obviously before Christmas, the shit hit the fan about Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah.
So the estimates was 64 million. A cost approaching 110 million is what it looks like it's going to be end up at. So Croke Park had to come in and take over the running of the stadium. So, like, I mean, I'm not sure if this crosses over on the day-to-day running of coaches and stuff, but it definitely puts them under a financial strain. They couldn't pay back the stadium. Again, what do county board members know about building a stadium or running a stadium?
Yeah.
Genuinely, honestly. Like, I mean, what could they possibly... Say if me and you were to take over the Derry County Board tomorrow, how would we know what to do?
Oh, we'd know, will they?
No, but genuinely.
No, I know.
And there's a new stadium under construction. And who's to oversee that? And how do you know?
Yeah.
And me and you are very intelligent fellas.
Oh, like, you know.
But do you get my point? Like, I mean, when is the penny going to drop that county boards in general are not skilled enough to run businesses, which is what county boards are?
Well, absolutely. And like, I saw a piece from Hugh McKenna a few weeks ago that said, like, they overspend on the stadium. Never mind the actual spend on the stadium, the amount that they've overspent from what they projected it would cost. That would have built 3 Premier League stadiums. I think it was Swansea's, Leicester's and Southampton's.
My God.
3 modern, lovely little stadiums, like 40,000, 30,000. Like, you know, that's what the overspend alone would have built. But, like, yeah. And then the fact that they came out and in this meeting, I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but then they said that they were on target for the projected spend. You know, so it was almost like this 30-40 million was just, you know, don't worry about that. That's, you know, that's nothing they see here. Like, you know, so I don't know if that's incompetence or just very, very worrying sort of mishandling of, like, deliberate mishandling. But either way, it does show people here in over their heads.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. You're in over your heads. Then again, you look at this new bloody National Children's Hospital or in St. James's, and that's gone 700 million over something. Like, I mean, how can this happen? You get your estimate with the information. How can it go that far over?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is your builder taking a lend out of you, or how is, like, I mean, how can this be possible?
But like one criticism I would have had of like Canty and all, like, you know, it's great and it's obviously a lot of common sense where they're saying high quality coaches in every club by 2024, but I would have preferred if they showed how they were going to do that, because especially now with all this, it's like, give me some sort of actual plan. Or, like, it sounds great, this is what we're going to do, but
well, exactly. Well, if they broke it down, this is what our games development grant was from Croke Park. This is how we're going to be able to fund this. This is what we want. These are the graduates with a qualified degree in some sort of coaching, or you know, like, I mean, that's what you want. Like, I mean, you can get in 10 coaches, but they could be useless.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be nepotism, and it could be a mate of a mate, and that absolutely goes on in county boards. Fellas getting jobs that don't actually deserve them, and not thinking of the bigger picture. But anyways, like, I mean, there always seems to be something else with Cork. I think we have time for one more here, and that is the Dublin third string beating a decent Meath team on penalties. Like, so, I mean, so we had penalties again. Mayo again, the great entertainers again, of course. Mayo lose this time on penalties. Dublin beat Meath. Now, the Dublin team was their third string. Let's be honest. So none of them were on the panel of 30 really last year, right? Well, it didn't look to me. I don't know the exact extended. So if you're picking a first 15 for Dublin and a second 15 for Dublin, none of these fellas are on it. Now, unless there'd be a few that might make a claim for it this year. They beat a Meath team, right? Meath had 4 defenders that played against Tyrone and Navan last. They had their midfield that played against Tyrone and Navan, Brian Menton and Adam Flanagan. They had Ben Brennan, who played against Tyrone, to Thomas O'Reilly, who came on against Tyrone. Graham Riley came on against Dublin the other night. He played nearly the whole game. He played against Tyrone, and they've Mickey Newman back this year. That was the Meath team that lost to Dublin's third string. Meath hammered Laois. It's so depressing. It is so depressing. I couldn't believe it when I saw the Meath team and I cross-referenced it against the Tyrone game in Navan last year. I couldn't believe it, how strong. I knew by some of the names jumping out of me, but I just wanted to get a few more lads. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
I saw a report, and I don't know if it was trying to just soften the blow for Meath, but it said Dublin sent for Conor McHugh. You know, as if like Dublin had called upon their big guns to come in and finish the job. They'd sent for somebody who would be in their second team.
Conor McHugh is turned into a bit of an also-ran now. He's lucky to get on. He'd be lucky to get on the second
exactly,
team.
Like, and it's just the fact that the people knew his name.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they got Conor McHugh in. It's like, Conor McHugh isn't going to be starting for them this year, like, you know, and that's the one player that they brought on.
Yeah. Outrageous, like, he bringing the big gun on. But anyway, Senan Connell was talking at the Air Sport launch, and he was talking about Shawnee McMahon, who's full back. So he's from Raheny, I think. So he's saying that he's a modern full back. He's not afraid to go. So he's going to take on up the field. He's flexible. He fisted a point, and he's not afraid of the heavy stuff either. He said he thinks the full back line needs a bit of refreshing. He also mentioned Aaron Byrne from Na Fianna, and he mentioned Sean Bulger from St. Plunkett. So there's two lads to look out for. Just a little bit more of the Dublin news. Paul Flynn and Bernard Brogan are back again this year. There is nobody going to jump ship for the five in a row. Like, I mean, let's be honest. We know the party line is, well, we're not even thinking about the 5 in a row. Yeah. Yes, you are, lads. It's never been done in the history of Gaelic football.
Yeah,
so
I was actually thinking, does it matter that much? Like, they've won enough for Dublin.
They'll go down in history forever.
Yeah, I was thinking they will anyway.
And Flynn and Bernard will have been on all 5 of them. Like, they're never going to leave. Like, Berno's twins now, he's got a lot of business commitments. He's absolutely not guaranteed his first place by any manner of means. Has a dodgy knee. Yeah. And he's going back. He just doesn't want to miss out on that 5 in a row. And, like, I mean, you'd completely understand that.
Yeah, the target, I suppose, is who is the player who played in all 5 finals for Dublin. Well, who is the 5 players who played in all 5 finals for Dublin?
James McCarthy, anyways.
No, but I mean, like, that's probably what you're aiming for when they do win 5 in a row. It's like you want to be.
So let's do it here, not to an eye on him. Cluxton, James McCarthy. There won't be that many after that. Fenton wasn't around. No, Cooper wasn't around in 11.
So 2000.
No, it's 5 in a row. Cooper then. Yeah,
Cooper
was in the mix, right? I'm thinking of the set. If you want lads who started all 7.
Keane O'Sullivan. Oh yeah, all 7.
Kilkenny didn't start all of them. Keane O'Sullivan could have been injured for one, was he? Anyways, look.
Are we still recording here?
Anyways, you might let us know if we've got anything wrong there. Right, we'll come back with some of your questions from Twitter. All right, so questions from Twitter. So we said we'd get a few questions out of you on the last show before we split out the 2 podcasts. And the first one is from Bill Horan, and we kind of touched on this already. Why are we not having a serious conversation about adding a second referee? Wasn't it a strong suggestion from him, Fitzmaurice? The pros would far outweigh the cons. I'm not sure they would, to be honest with you. Like, because if Brannigan can't count hand passes in one half, how is another lad on the field going to fix that? I think two referees have different styles. I think you could be getting pulled for one thing on, especially the tackle, especially picking the ball up off the ground. Little things like that that might be blown on one end, and another referee might be a lot more relaxed about them. Will the referees have to syndicate and make sure that they're anal about the same things? Because everyone, before championship games, will get a full lowdown on what this referee likes, his dislikes. He's a stickler for this. He doesn't like verbals. So you could be given all the verbals you want one end, and you could be getting a red card. Do you get me? I think it's a lot more messy than people think. And for me, with 2 linesmen and 4 umpires, all mic'd up, how much more do you want? There's pulling off the ball. You missed a foul down here. You know, just talk to the referee, make his life easier. I don't see what another referee can do to help.
Yeah, I think a good referee as well, what they do is they get into the game, like, and they get into the flow of the game, and they start getting up to the pace of it. They start getting not a relationship with the players, but they're the one talking to them the whole time.
Yeah.
And then there is that level of consistency then the whole way through. Even if he's a bad referee, at least you start knowing what to expect from him. Like,
that's it. You can start reading him and you'll understand it.
So that would be completely messed up if you were just letting him go after the halfway line and a different referee.
Yeah, no, exactly. So this one's from Derek O'Donnell. He says, are people becoming obsessed with the poor handballing rule rather than the issue it was trying to address, i.e. resorting to kicking, restoring kicking into the game? What can be done to restore kicking skills so that the handball is not simply the safe preference? The hand pass, I presume he means when he says handball. Restore kicking into the game, I don't think really there's anything. I think other than getting a more traditional structure on the actual field, which could have been done, what I suggested before this whole thing started was to have a restriction on how many players you can bring back into your own half. I don't think there's actually anything. I think what this hand pass thing is doing is trying to get restoring kicking in.
How do you do that? Would they be wearing a different jersey, or how do you?
I don't know. I think my idea of that.
Brannigan will have a nightmare with that.
My idea of that is that your full forward line, 13, 14, 15 are your scorers, and they cannot track back. You've one other forward then, your number 11, right? So 11, 13, 14, 15 do not come back into your own half. Now obviously subs that come on can make that a little bit more interesting, but you've a direct sub for a direct sub. Do you get me? If you're taking off Clifford and you're bringing on Barry John Kane, he's your forward. Unless all these players are nominated with on the programme forward, you know what I mean? And then your 2 wing forwards can track back. Anyways, I don't want to get into that, Conan, because this is like Joe Brolly now talking about all his, and he's taking credit for Stephen O'Mara's pass back to the goalkeeper.
I think your initial offensive mark would be 1 start anyway, when you had to win it inside the 20. We just would have encouraged people to kick it in and catch it in there. They can still do that to a sense, but it's not in their minds as much.
No, exactly. So Michael Lavin had that exact same question. He said, would a minimum number of players in each half rule not be the simplest and most effective cure for football problems, with the benefit of not needing 5 or 6 badly thought out piecemeal rules? I think obviously this is just my subjective opinion, is my offensive mark inside the 20 and a restriction on going back. Simple, you have a brilliant game, and I don't think you'd have as much complaints. James Gorman tweeted, and he says, are people losing interest in football due to the negative tactics and unfair advantage Dublin possesses with a quarter of the population of the country? I know I am. The answer to all that is yes, James. That's why people are uninterested. And it was interesting that TV viewership, only 3, Conan, and this is very worrying, only 3 GAA games got in the top 20 sporting. That's poor. That is poor. And the viewership for the All-Ireland final was horrific compared to it. It's down about 400,000 on the previous year.
Yeah, no, I would look at, like, you'd have to have a bigger sample there, because the year before there were loads of GAA games in it, and 1 year later, but when we changed the structure of the championship and we had 1 week build up from the quarter-final to the semi-final, we didn't show as much GAA games, like football games anyway, and then we showed a couple of random sort of Super 8 matches, which people complained about because some of them were dead rubbers and stuff then. So I don't know, I just think the whole structure of it messed up a little bit. Don't think Dublin helped at all.
Don't remember that Dublin changed the game in 2017 against Tyrone. They showed that this hand-passing possession game on the outside of the screen, waiting for your opportunity, slow, methodical build-up. So 17 and 18 has been different to, like, the counter-attack worked in 13, 14, 15, 16 to a certain, to a much more degree. Now the ball is not taken into contact. Now the ball is not turned over. Now we're seeing 29 hand-pass sequences. So, I think 17 and 18 we're heading on a spiral now of hand-pass city because, again, they're all follow the leader, Conan. It's all copycat stuff. So they saw Dublin do it to Tyrone.
Yeah.
Now they're all doing it.
But I agree. But I did think Michael Murphy's comments were interesting last year, going on about how they have to score, was it 23 points or something like that to beat Dublin. I think Dublin beaten Tyrone so convincingly in the last 2 years. People will know, they can keep the ball and stuff, but it'll show teams like Tyrone that actually we can't beat Dublin playing this way now. We have to outscore them, as difficult as that is.
I don't know. Even with the 3 hand passes, they're still all dropping bodies back. Like, they're so programmed into it. It's unbelievable. All right, Mark McKernan, 3 left. Would we benefit from scrapping pre-season competitions in place of a home and away league campaign, as Kieran McGeaney suggested, or should a clear out of pre-season competition be in place of a new extended championship? I'm not sure about that last bit. So anyways, remember talking about this with Kieran McGeaney last year. I say no. Absolutely scrap the pre-season. Home and away league would be absolutely torturous. You're doubling the games. So you'd have to scrap the April for clubs, and you'd need January and April just to finish out the actual. The only way to do that is to make the league the only competition in the whole year and play knockout coming out of the league.
Yeah.
Like, I can't see a league home and away ever working based on the championship structure we have in the summer. If you want to move it all like Aussie rules,
make it a whole season
like the
long.
AFL,
Yeah, it's not
a whole season long, home and away, top 4 go into All-Ireland semi-final, final, All-Ireland champions, and that would be your genuine All-Ireland champions.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be a harder championship to win than that one.
Get rid of the pre-season competitions, but leave some space for the Sigerson, Fitzgibbon, and the club.
Exactly. But in fairness to the GAA, we know this is being reviewed next year. At the end of this year, when we're in, this is only the second year of Duffy's. We need 3 years of this, so they're not in change for 3 years. Another one. This is from. I don't have this fella's name. I didn't put down his name. Anyways, he says you're on year 3 of your 3-year plan for Galway to win Sam. How's it going to go?
The best question of them all.
I'm feeling pressure. So we've the 2 Sweeney brothers that left the panel. I don't think that's a terribly bad thing. We have McDade and Silk back into the mix.
We've
Kieran Malloy getting a run now, wing back. McDade actually played wing forward against Mayo. He's going to be a plus. I have to admit, when I made that prediction, I did not see Dublin's new wave coming. I saw Connolly going, I saw Berno going, I saw Flynn going, I saw Michael Darmacaulay going, I saw all these lads going, and I saw Galway had a great chance when Dublin were weakening to maybe get an All-Ireland in 3 years. I thought they had great potential. I didn't see Howard coming, I didn't see Scully coming, I didn't see Con getting as good as he did. I didn't see, Fenton has obviously come completely. He was around. Merchant is back in the mix now.
It's a joke, isn't it?
I mean, it is a complete joke. So no, Galway won't win the All-Ireland in 3 years. Dublin will win the All-Ireland next year, and the only team that could potentially stop them, I think, is Kerry.
Oh, interesting.
Only because I'm reading in that they have the talent. They can match potentially Dublin for points, and the fact that when Dublin were really strong in the 70s, Kerry came from nowhere with a young team to beat them. So they have that tradition and belief that they can actually do this. When they've done it, another team with the Jack O'Shea's and the Spillans and all these, they did it. It's not beyond the possibilities.
I thought Tyrone had that sort of swagger about them for about 15 minutes in the final as well, and it was like, oh yeah, these boys will think they can win, and then Dublin just started ramping up the gears.
Look, you'd want to be crazy to bet against Dublin this year, and the thing about Dublin, you can be guaranteed they're coming back with the same hunger. They're like I mean, you're not even going to say, geez, well, complacency could catch Dublin. It absolutely won't. And Jim Gavin locked in for another.
Jim Gavin's losing the run of himself, you know.
Jim Gavin, he's doing a Brian Cody on it. Like, I mean, he's locked in. How many more years has he locked in?
2022, is it?
Yeah. So there you go. Like, I mean, if he went, you would think there might get in a bit of a Jack the Lad manager, like a Tommy Lyons maybe, and get back to the good old days or something, with Dublin being a bit kind of all over the place. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
What odds you get for 10 in a row?
Oh Jesus, I don't know. But like, I mean, it'd be worth a tenner. Anyway, speaking of Dublin, Joe McAvoy tweeted. And he said, what are Laois's chances in the Masters competition this year? There's a fantastic. Now, he did the monkey covering his eyes face, so I don't know, is he taking the piss out of me or what? But we're going to win the Masters this year.
Do you have a full panel?
Joe. So I've been trash talked already. Dublin are starting to get in the mix here. So they've been out training with Coach Kavanagh, nonetheless.
Shut up.
The Dublin Masters are back at it already.
What, doing MMA and stuff?
They're doing MMA in the closed season. So these lads aren't messing around here.
They're already doing supplementary training.
Yeah, they're not messing around. So I don't know who their manager is. Our manager is the great Barney Marr. So I text the group and says, Barney's going to want to get his finger out. These dubs are these dubs. So we have to see what we're going to go. Listen, This is my analysis of this Masters. This Masters, there's a lot of 45 to 55 year olds playing this. I'm 40 years of age. I'm fresh.
Yeah.
I don't have any weight on me. Greg Ramsbottom, Chris Conway, Kevin Fitzpatrick, all these, Noel Garvin, Tom Kelly, Joe Higgins, we're all 40, 41. We're going to win that.
Yeah.
Only because it's a numbers game. We're like young, fresh. Like, obviously we're old at 40, but we're young Masters players. Like, you can't get any younger. We're all only 40. So there's only going to be one winner of the Masters this year, and that's Laois.
When is it?
I don't know when it's on.
Oh, Jesus.
We'd want to start training, or my trash talk is going to look very
It's
stupid.
going to be class. Like, I'm actually looking forward to it. It'd be like the soccer sixes that were on there over Christmas. Like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
the-
with
the
McAteer
legends.
and Michael Owen, yeah.
McAteer absolutely losing the shit. And I heard him then afterwards, and he was still complaining about it. And he said, geez, we had a great team together. We had a great blend of youth and experience. It's like, hang on, you're all over 40 here. There's no youth and experience.
Darren Rooney's another one. He's another one. And then next year, when we get the 97 minors in the mix, we'll have Clancy, we'll have Aidan Fenley, we'll have Brian McCormick, who's still playing Portlaoise. If we don't win it this year, we'll win next year. I'll give you a 3-year prediction on the Masters, like I did.
Oh, we're coming. But that stays Dublin with like Bernard Brugan and Paul Flynn.
No, Alan Brogan and them will be the next to come. Yeah.
Right,
So when they come, then that's a good wave of Brian Cullen, Declan Lally. Well, all that age group who won 2 All Irelands in a row, they'd all become it. Barry Cahill, all those lads. So Shane Ryan, anyways, listen, we'll worry about those dubs when they come. We want to get the All Ireland in before that happens.
I'm saying nothing.
I can't believe we're still talking here. Right, that's all we've time for. We'll be back next Thursday. We're going to build up to the league. We'll do some sort of preview. Matty Ford is signed up to the football show, and we might have one more surprise signing for the football show. Also, Brian Carroll has been signed up for the hurling show, so we'll be unveiling our new pundits. We'll make a big splash about this. You're back.
Am I going over to the hurling as well? I think I'm ready for it.
I don't think so. Right, listen, we'll talk to you next Thursday. Good luck.